Hi everyone, my name is Katerina Lengold. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I want to talk about color and joy and the boldness and vividness of life. A lot of people believe in minimalism. There are so many videos across YouTube talking about the power of minimalism. And honestly, I was subscribing to this idea for a very long time myself. But quickly I realized that living in a very simple, sterile environment is not exactly what makes me happy. And today we're going to talk about the neuroscience of color. Why is it so important to have a variety of textures and colors and this abundance in our life? And what is the reason for that? What is the evolutionary biology behind that? And hopefully I will be able to persuade you to add a little bit of color into your home, into your wardrobe, and into your life. And by the end of the video, you will have some specific practices, some specific methods that I personally use that you can add to your life, and hopefully that will make a difference. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to share with you is just a little bit of the backstory of my search of vividness for life. And for those of you who are seeing me for the very first time here on YouTube, I grew up in Russia, and currently I live in California, but most of my life I spent in Russia, where I was raised in low middle class family, and I was so used to living in a very cluttered, overwhelming space. I remember we had crazy wallpapers on the walls in our apartment. We had a teeny studio where all of us lived, and I remember just wanting simple space with as few things as possible. And the reality is a lot of us, not only in developing countries, but now in the US, I see that a lot as well. We are surrounded by stuff. And that makes a lot of sense that minimalism is so attractive when you have this kind of blank slate, very few things. And we kind of crave it. And I remember the first apartment I rented, I painted it all white. I had like white furniture from IKEA, white walls. I wanted things to be as simple as possible. And the emotional overwhelm that we all face, we feel like we need to counteract it with very minimal interior. I started wearing very minimal clothes, black and white, and I was able to create this kind of island of simplicity. But the truth is, our brain, through millions of years of evolution, was not designed to live in this sterile, simple environment. Like if you think of it, like imagine for yourself for a second, like a beautiful lake in the mountains, and there's a meadow with lots of colorful flowers and a blue sky and, bright yellow sun and all of those bold colors. How do you feel in this sort of environment? You probably feel really uplifted. You probably feel a lot of energy. And the reality is, and when we see this abundance of color, that signals to us, hey, this environment has a lot of potential prey. We can collect some of the berries here. So this is livable. And compare that to an Arctic desert or a regular like Sahara desert, where everything is muted, monochromatic, and minimalist in a way. And this is not the environment where we can live. So places that have this abundance of color also signal that, hey, this is a place where we can live. So we naturally crave this visual color variety. What's more, all the animals, imagine a peacock, a very kind of like colorful, bold, vivid color peacock, and the other one with very kind of grayish feathers, kind of like meh colors. Which one do you think is the healthy peacock and which one is not? It's very clear that color and intensity of color shows health, and we are wired to perceive color as a very important source of information. If you look at the brain, a huge part of our brain is visual cortex, and processing visual information takes a lot of mental power. We need a lot of input, visual kind of input. And so our brain has been designed to process visual information. When we have sensory deprivation, in particular visual sensory deprivation, for a short period of time after the overwhelm, it feels good. And this is why a lot of people who have been, feeling overwhelmed want some minimalism. But after a while, it feels like, again, it's deprivation. So our sensory organs and our parts of our brain that are designed to process all this information, they don't get it. And so we crave it. We crave color. We imagine like a plate of vegetables where everything is about the same kind of meh grayish color. And imagine a rainbow of colors on your plate. Which one would look more appetizing? We know that, greens, the greener it is, the more nutrients it contains. So color is a very powerful signaling mechanism. Another example for you, we have in our eyes, we have special cells that are sensitive to light. And specifically the light, the variety of light, when the temperature of light is different during sunset, sunrise, middle of a day. And we have special cells which respond to the brightness and the color temperature of the light, and it signals for us what part of the day it is, and it impacts our hormonal regulation. So color, we need it. That's my point. And when we are entering this world where a lot of people live in those glass and concrete buildings that have no color, where they have this gray steel, like very neutral, very muted, very desert-like or Arctic Circle-like environment, this is where it is hard for our brain to feel safe, to feel like we're in an environment that is livable. And it results in stress. It results in feeling apathy. Like recently, just a few weeks ago, I was in a beautiful place in France. It's a place called Giverny. It's about an hour and a half from Paris. And it's a garden created by Claude Monet, famous Impressionist artist, that he cultivated and which he used as a source of inspiration for all his artwork. And let me tell you, this abundance of color in this beautiful pond with lilies and like wisteria around the banks of this pond, and the whole garden just boosting with color, with life, with vividness, it made me feel so happy. Even when we talk about life that is worth living, we call it what? Vivid, colorful, right? We want this. And we deny ourselves those things. And so being in Giverny was like an important reminder for me that yes, we live in the world that prioritizes minimalism when we have this abundance of like consumerism and when we just buy a lot of stuff that we don't need. And so I asked myself a question: how can I balance this desire for less, which, is very natural. We don't want to be overwhelmed with stuff. And also this desire for this colorful, vivid, bold experience. And how I combine it, how I make the choices for my home, for the way I look, which balances this too. And here comes another example for you. Just recently, I came back. We live in two places, one in Park City up in the mountains, and we also have a home near San Francisco by the ocean. And because we don't spend much time in this house near San Francisco, I had like the whole backyard is just a mess. It has so many weeds. And I decided, hey, I want to plant some flowers, but before I do that, I need to remove all the weeds. I need to clear up the space. And so I did that. And of course, it looked horrible, like bare soil. It's not very fun. And I think this is the same thing that we do when we clean up the space. But cleaning up the space and creating this kind of minimalism canvas, blank slate, is an important first step, a wonderful first step. But it's just the first step. So after you've cleaned up this space, you need to plant something. And I want to remind you, I'm sure many of you have read the book by Marie Kondo about, cleaning your house and putting things in order. And it's a very simple book. But there's a very important piece of it that really resonated with me, and I think a lot of people just glance over it. It's not only about getting rid of stuff that you don't need. It's about adding and living the things that spark joy. And I think this is exactly the metaphor, and this is exactly the lesson that I decided to apply to myself. We do not want a lot of stuff. We do not want the abundance of things we don't love. And this is exactly what life of many people looks like. We want to get rid of unnecessary things, but not to create minimalism and this kind of sterile environment. No, we want that so we can have this white, clean canvas so we can put things that we love, that spark joy. And so this is what I decided to do. I decided, hey, for my home, I want simplicity. I don't want too much stuff, but I want splashes of color. And, you can see it right behind me right now, this kind of rainbow colors of the books. I decided to do the same thing with the way I dress. Yeah, I don't want to be crazy, like billions of colors and patterns, but I want those kind of splashes of happy, bold, energizing colors. And you can do it in some really simple ways. You can put a beautiful, like bold vase of flowers. You can put some colorful vegetables on your plate. You can pick a scarf that has a nice, again, like flower-like splash of color, and just watch what happens. I really, really recommend that in the next week, maybe even today after watching this video, you have an experiment. What if I'm going to drink my tea from a more colorful cup? What if I will get a scarf that, or I don't know, for men, pair of socks, bold, beautiful color socks, and see how it changes the way you feel. It's so weird because you would think like, hey, who cares what the color is? But the splash of color adds this abundance and vividness, and your brain responds to it. You see yourself in the mirror, you see what surrounds you, and if you have a minimalist base dotted with those splashes of color, your brain will work its absolute best. So give a try to this experiment and see how you respond. Play around. Do not remove colors from your life because for some reason in the Western world, we believe that sophistication equals like muted colors, black and white. It's not what our brains are designed to perceive as healthy, good, and abundant. This is not exactly the case. And I think for us, for the people in the Western world, it's kind of good to learn from other countries. And in Guatemala, for example, there are cemeteries that where each tomb is colored with the colors that the person who died loved, and the family just painted with those colors. And those cemeteries, they look like celebration of life instead of place of death and grief and sadness. Colors make a lot of difference. Give it a try, guys. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for looking at my channel. Here I discuss science-based tools and neuroscience ideas that you can implement in your day-to-day life. I started as a tech entrepreneur, built an aerospace company, and after selling it, I realized I wanted not just a successful life, but I want to balance it with joy and meaning. And this is when I started studying brain and started a university specifically researching different aspects of neuroscience that can be applied to day-to-day life and productivity that is just not solely for success, but also for having a good life. So if you're interested in that, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I post regularly here, and I'll see you in the next video. Oh, by the way, before you go, there's a like button here. And if you click it, then more people will see this video, and hopefully more people will get more color into their lives. So if you don't mind, click it. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.